Okay. Excuse me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my brother Corey's here. Not my actual brother. I mean, we might be brothers, but it'd be weird if we were, right? Estranged brothers. That'd be crazy. We're gonna pull him in a second. We got a lot to talk about today. We're gonna have basically it's two shows today. You get two shows today. Um, the first is going to be about women, gang. We need to address the women question, okay? Women's entitlement to men's time, attention, and bodies. It's out of control. We need to talk about it. And second, at 7, we have a gentleman coming in to debate me on race swapping. And they think that it's a big deal that Hermione Granger has darker skin in the HBO special or whatever, the HBO series, than it did in the movies. And we're gonna debate about that. It's gonna be fun. It should be fun anyway, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But yeah, we're here. We're ready. We're gonna bring in Corey. We can get him set up, and then we'll get into it. Cool. What up, G? You're live.
Oh, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll turn on my camera in a moment.
Please. Give me a second. Okay, we can see you. We can hear you. Give it a minute or two for people to kind of get in here. But how you doing, man? What's going on? How's life with Corey?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on your show. I'm going on panels every once in a while. I teach and tutor students, and that pretty much consumes most of my life. And I also write now. I have a Substack.
What's your Substack?
I'm trying to focus
I'm really curious.
Well, the address is pretty much whatever. It's Corey Campbell. But it'll be mostly, my first Substack post was about my experience in biotech, basically, and being fired from a job in a biotech company. But then my second piece, it's all mostly going to be science related. But my second piece was that I'm hoping to publish soon, actually, probably the next week, is about how I proved an academic wrong, and actually I would say the title of the piece is basically I proved an academic and the internet wrong, but it took about 20 years to do that. Where the overall through line is I made a single edit to a Wikipedia page, and then that started off a whole Wikipedia edit war that literally lasted years. And then my original edit is now on the page.
You know what? That's the nerdiest thing I think I've heard all day. So you will win an award for that. You won the Wiki Wars, okay? The Wiki Wars.
I did.
You have emerged victorious. Your enemies have been slain. There are women and children either enslaved or put to the sword. And you, sir, are the alpha Wiki warrior. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I did feel vindicated because, I'm not kidding. It went on for years of back and forth. I made a change. People reverted back saying, no, this is incorrect. And I said, no, this is actually correct. And then it would be changed back. And it went back and forth about 5 or 6 times. And then lo and behold, when I check it years later, it's like, oh, my original edit is now there. And they all now have seen the light. And I was engaged in a Wikipedia war with from what I can tell from the information I gather was like a full tenured professor in chemistry.
Yeah, well, good job. I'm proud of you, sir. But today, instead of talking about men's accomplishments, we're going to talk about women's wrongs, okay? The things that they do wrong, okay? So my thesis statement for tonight, because we're mostly going to talk about the clip. We're going to show it in a second. I'll share the screen. We'll show it, and we'll go through it, and we'll talk about it. But it goes beyond that. So my thesis statement for this evening, for this discussion, is that women, even more so than men, right, feel entitled to men's time, to men's attention and affection, and to men's bodies. And it is something we recognize is wrong when men do it. But for some reason, women don't feel that same level of social stigma and shame. I'll give you an example. If you ever want to get called the F slur, just tell a woman no when they proposition you for any kind of sexual thing. We recognize when a man does it. When a man says, "Oh, what are you, a bitch? What are you, a lesbian?" That's verboten. That's something that we do not like. Okay? When a woman does it to a man, no one bats an eye, and they, as the internet has shown me, they'll tell you you're lying, and I get that a lot. But you're a fairly virile young man. Surely you can
Oh, I actually agree with you. And actually, it is interesting on, let's say, the sexual assault component or sexual harassment component. There is some, very often, more often than not, an asymmetry there, where I've certainly had the experience, for sure, where, when you look a certain way, or let's say, if you have abs, well, there are women that feel entitled to touch you or grab your arms. It doesn't bother me. But like, I do find it strange, and it is revealing information, as in I don't view favorably upon it, just as I don't view favorably of anybody touching anybody non-consensually. But like, yes, there are some women out there that totally, if they see, like, they operate under the assumption that sexual touching is welcome and that no man would reject it. Right? I agree with that.
Yes, and it's one of those things where I think that it plays into what we're about to watch too, right? The reason I'm connecting these things is because I think these ideas are connected, right? Before we go further, let's watch the clip. Let me pull it up, share my screen. Hold on, give me a second. I want to share the right screen, not the wrong screen, right? That'd be crazy.
What would be the wrong screen?
My DMs or something, right?
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I don't wanna show all that shit. Okay, let's get it. I guess we could have full screened it, but whatever. We'll just.
I see. Let's say the opening thumbnail doesn't look so great, but
Look, it's from a show called Girls, and to be clear and full disclosure, I have not seen any episodes of this show.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've only seen this clip. It went viral. I had a strong reaction when viewing it, and I wanted to talk about it with you because you seem to disagree with my reaction. But we'll show the clip. I'll talk about my reaction, and we'll talk about it. Sound good? Cool. Volume's good. Let's go. And chatters, tell me if you can hear this.
No, I can't go for a run because I had an abortion yesterday. I can't go for a run, and I can't take a bath or use a tampon or have intercourse for like a week.
Are you, what?
Yeah, just a couple of things I can't do because I had an abortion yesterday.
Was it mine?
Yeah, of course it was yours. I didn't want to talk about it beforehand. I just wanted to do it. But I haven't shared with boyfriends in the past. So I'm trying to be more open with you.
So you're trying to be open with me. How many abortions have you had?
I'm not going to share that with you because that is private. I'm not going to ask you how many girls you've gotten pregnant.
None. It's not private. I've got no girls pregnant except for you now. Who fucking went with you?
My friend Sue Ellen Garth.
I don't even know her.
You'll meet her. She's a somnambulist.
Who did it? Who aborted you?
A doctor named Gunita did the procedure. She delivered my cousin's baby.
Was it a boy or a girl?
My cousin's baby's a girl.
No! Ours!
It was a ball of cells. It was smaller than a seed pearl. It didn't have a penis or a vagina.
Isn't this a decision that people typically make together?
So you wanted a baby?
Maybe.
That's kind of absurd. We've been together for less than 7 weeks. I don't think that we're ready for a child.
Crazier things have happened. People do crazy things. My parents got married after a fucking week.
Okay, so we should have the baby and put it in your toolbox as a cradle and feed it sardines and tell it that you don't know my middle name?
It's Rose!
No, my first name is Mimi Rose. My middle name is Eleanor.
I don't understand how you could do something like that without talking to me first. That's evil.
You're right, you don't understand.
And that's the clip, ladies and gentlemen. So
What a performance.
Look, he's a good actor. I wish he had. I think they did him dirty in Star Wars by giving him really shitty lines. Kylo Ren deserved better than the lines they gave him. Let's be real. But look, at the end of the day, his reaction was not only, understandable. I empathize with him. I think he was. I don't know if correct is the right word, but it is entirely within the bounds of reason that he would act that way, because of course he would act that way. And here's my opinion, you could disagree, right? After I'll let you give you. So there's a few things that are really red flags here. One, she thought that it wasn't worth consulting with him over a decision that affects both of them. Because let's be real, it's his child too. I know we have this kind of idea that the woman, it's her body, and she's the one that's going to suffer most through the bodily changes and have to deal with the most of the risk for it. And fair. But he had a part in it too, right? He contributed. He contributed some of the ingredients to the cake, if you want to call it that, right? It's his child too. And she thought not even to tell him or inform him or ask him what he thought. Maybe he wanted a kid. Maybe he did. He's ready for it, and that's fair. But I think that he is entitled and should have at least some input. Now, I would say that I think that at the end of the day, the woman makes a choice. And while legally, I agree, I'm a pro-choice person, I think when it comes to morals and ethics, I absolutely think what she did, at least as portrayed in the clip, was maybe not evil, but grossly negligent and inconsiderate of him and his feelings. She felt entitled to make this decision without even asking him. Those are my thoughts. Why am I wrong? Why am I wrong to emphasize with this guy? Go ahead.
Yeah, I will do my best to outline. So I do want to clarify a couple things, as in you empathize with that level of anger in terms of him throwing things and him calling it evil?
To be clear, him getting throwing stuff off the table to break it, probably a little too far, but anger,
Right.
Absolutely. Anger, absolutely, to be enraged, yes.
I can understand some level of mild. I'd be more upset in terms of the lack of communication. But
it's a betrayal.
So, there's multiple levels here. But
Sure.
but you are we on the same page that level of anger, no matter what, is like not good?
Well, again, he shouldn't have thrown things and stuff like that. That was inappropriate. But
But do you think anybody
express that
in
anger in that particular way? But feeling that level of anger is entirely justified.
Sure, yeah. Well, I don't care what level of anger you feel, but if you're angry to the point of killing someone, that's different. Just as it's different if you're angry and you're throwing things and punching a wall.
Again, even in the clip, he didn't touch her. He didn't hurt her.
No, but even then, throwing inanimate objects is it's still not generally, usually not generally the greatest sign of someone who knows how to manage their emotions.
I would agree with that, but let's not equate that with that is a much different thing. Like him sweeping stuff off the table is a much different thing than had he laid hands on her. If he had laid hands on her,
I agree.
Then obviously it doesn't matter. That is not something that's appropriate to do in that circumstance, and he should face repercussions for that. But that's not what happened. Right?
I know. I agree with it that nothing happened there as far as what I would characterize as abusive, but I would say is that is an unhealthy expression of anger. Is that a fair characterization?
Sure.
Okay. Now, but even then, okay, I do want to. We're going to go down a spectrum, and I'm probably going to probably trigger a few of your chatters, because I think a lot of this comes from a misunderstanding. So you do recognize, you said it, that there's an asymmetry in risk in terms of pregnancy is 100% more risky for the woman than it is for the man.
Certainly.
Okay. And so
It was me. I'm sorry. Give it a
That's
minute
okay.
for my internet to reconnect. I don't know, or my OBS to reconnect. I don't know.
No problem.
It was a hiccup. I get these probably once a stream, and I hate it. But luckily, it's very quick, and it's usually resolved within a minute. So bear with us. I'll let you know when we're back alive on YouTube
No
and
problem.
Twitch, and you can go through your thing. You'll have to repeat yourself, and I apologize for that, but
That's
it is
okay.
what it is.
More than happy to.
Yeah. Once that red turns to green. Okay. Are we back,
Well-
chatters? Are we back? Are we back, the YouTubers? Are we back, the Twitchers? Yeah, my internet got aborted without my consent or my info. So we're back. Are we kidding? Okay, everyone can see us and hear us again. Great, wonderful, awesome. Continue, please.
And you would agree that if you lost your internet and then punched your wall, that would be an unhealthy expression of anger, right?
Sure.
You can be okay. So yeah, what I would say is, so you recognize the asymmetry in risk, and the woman carries all the risk.
Yes,
okay?
I recognize the asymmetry and risk
Okay.
physically, yes.
Yes. And again, I'm probably going to trigger maybe a bunch of your chatters or all of them, because I think probably they don't understand the biology in terms of what's going on there. So the argument that I heard is like, well, it's still his because
Yes.
he contributed to part of the cake. Okay.
Yes. It is his
now,
kid. And I'll tell you why. Because if she had chosen not to get the abortion and she had gone to term and completed that pregnancy, guess who would be responsible for paying for that kid?
Sure, we can get
He
into the
would.
legal aspect.
Right?
Sure. If you want to go down the road of like there should be no legal obligation financially for the man, I can be sympathetic to that argument. I can be swayed for that. But I don't think what's recognized in terms of the asymmetry, where the argument is generally it's like, well, it's 50% the man's because he contributed 50%. Now here's where, okay, the devil's in the details, okay, and here's where the nuance comes in. Is it actually 50%? Okay, of like, so. Do you know the relative size difference between a sperm and an egg?
Sperms are very small. Eggs are, well, also small, but less small. Yes, I don't know the exact time
so
percentage.
if I asked you the question,
we also put millions and millions of sperm out too, so there's like a ton.
Yeah, but if I asked you, let's say, how many sperm do you think can fit into one egg? Do you have an intuition on what that answer would be?
Probably one, because it locks out after.
Yeah, sure. I'm talking about volume. Just by
I have
volume.
no idea, man.
Yeah, exactly. Which I wouldn't expect you to. Okay, and I think most people, understandably, don't know. But even if we go by genome, which we get into the genome aspect as well, but it's at least a 10,000-fold difference. Okay, where you can fit at least, if not more, 10,000 sperm inside one egg, volumetrically. Okay, and even then, if you want to say the statement that it's 50% the man's is also incorrect, since what is not understood is that the mother contributes all of the mitochondria to the egg, and there's mitochondrial DNA, and your cells cannot survive without mitochondria.
But hold on,
go ahead.
Like, I understand you're trying to make this argument about, well, the mother contributes more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but without the father, that baby doesn't happen. And we, again, culturally understand this, sociologically understand this, legally understand this, right? That the man who contributes it is a parent. And where we do tend to favor the mother, legally, culturally, everyone understands that's the father. He's also responsible for the child. He's also he should be consulted in decisions around that child, all that. correct?
Sure. So I'm sympathetic to that argument in terms of so if you want to scale it to the amount contributed, okay, either from the egg and genetically, okay, I'm more than happy to scale it. But the argument that generally put forth is like it's 50-50, and it's not 50-50. So just I want to make that explicitly clear. Anybody using that 50-50 argument is incorrect and inaccurate, biologically speaking, no matter how well that you slice it. So setting that aside, okay, I can be sympathetic to someone being upset, and I agree with your take that a partner that doesn't share the information that they had an abortion is probably a bad partner. But then I would say that that's on you, the man, if you chose a bad partner that's not going to communicate that they had an abortion. It goes both ways. And so the onus is on both people in terms of before you actually engage in sexual activity and to hopefully be responsible adult humans, you both understand and discuss the consequences.
Certainly, yes. In the ideal situation, that would be the case, right? But if you are in a relationship, let's use this example. You have a one-night stand, okay? So you're at a Halloween party. You're dressed as I don't know, as a cop, and she's an immigrant, an illegal immigrant. You're dressed as ICE, and she's an illegal immigrant. You guys hook up, and then you never see her again. But then a year down the road, you knock on your door. Hello? Is this that sexy ICE officer I was with at the party? And she's got a little bundle of joy with her. Would you feel betrayed? Or would you feel angry that she never told you that you were going to be a father?
If you're talking about me personally, as an
yes, you personally,
I would
someone shows up at your door. Here's our kid.
Yeah, the onus is on me in terms of I chose, assuming they didn't sexually assault me. Okay, I chose to have sex with them, and so those are my consequences, and I would not be upset. As in, like, yes, I'm going to bear that responsibility. If I've had these conversations,
hold on, you wouldn't feel any kind of upset that she decided she knew she was pregnant. She could have gotten your number from a friend at the party or something, right? Let's assume that it was accessible, and then she chose not to contact you, and she made the decision to have the kid, right, to raise the kid without consulting you at all.
Yes,
you
choose your
feel
partners.
angry.
Yeah, I have no problem saying to a woman, okay, a woman that, let's say, who does not believe in abortion, okay, and they believe abortion is morally wrong, you better choose your partners wisely. And the onus is on you that if you chose a father that's going to run away or not actually be a present father, that's on you as the future mother. And the same thing holds true as a father, okay, where if I've chosen, okay, to actually have sex with a woman and I carry all the risks and responsibilities for that, and so, yes, if someone that I've actually had, obviously I'd probably call for a paternity test to confirm, but even then, like, yes, that is my responsibility. I have no problem bearing the responsibilities for my actions, okay? And so
I don't believe you. I believe you when you say you have no problem bearing the responsibility. Fair enough. But I don't believe you when you say that you wouldn't feel at least somewhat betrayed that they made the decision without even asking or consulting you.
I would say that I would probably have to look at myself in terms of why. Okay, why did I not, let's say, understand that the person I chose to have sex with would make this decision? Because it's like I've chosen so dramatically wrong, as in I mischaracterized something, and I have to go back in terms of how I feel throughout. Who do I choose to have sex with? I have no problem engaging that. And so just to tease out, okay, in terms of contributing. Because you seem to come from the angle in terms of, well, the man contributes, okay, and therefore
the father has I think because we give responsibilities to the father, not just legally but culturally and societally, and because I think that a man should be responsible for the children that he fathers, right? He should help raise them, protect them, train them, educate them, all these things. Because that is the case, when a woman is impregnated by a guy, then they have an equal kind of share into the stock that is the baby, in the womb. They have they should have an equal say, or at least, if you don't want to say equal, they should have at least some say.
Okay, and would your argument change if the legal aspect was changed in terms of there's no legal financial obligation on the man's
There's
part?
still
Or would you?
cultural and societal responsibilities, and I think an ethical responsibility. You have caused something. You as a man have done something. You have performed an action that if you had not performed it, this result would not have transpired. And so as someone who is engaged in that activity, it carries with a burden that is placed upon you that you have decided to risk shouldering by having unprotected sex or even engaging in protected sex, which sometimes protections fail. And I think that a woman who does not consult the man has done something immoral and not consulting the man before she either performs an abortion or does not.
Okay, so then I'm curious, like, what is your purpose of consulting? As in, if there's an actual disagreement in terms of going back to the clip, the woman consulted the man, and it's like, well, the woman wants the abortion. The man says, no, I don't want it. How do you arbitrate that?
So I think that in that case, again, because recognizing the woman has more physical risks, the courts and the medical professionals should side with the woman, but give the man a chance to persuade her. Give the man a chance to make his case. Give the man a chance to say, okay, maybe you're not ready for a kid, but I am, and I'll adopt that kid and take all the responsibilities on myself to raising that kid. We don't have to be together anymore. I can just raise him on my own, and you'll have no connection to that. Give that man what you're doing by not consulting him is you were robbing that man of the opportunity to have a say, to have any sort of consultation, any sort of input into something that absolutely could affect his entire life.
Well, why is the responsibility not on the man to choose a partner, have sex with a partner that will choose to consult with them?
Again, ideally, yes, you don't have sex with people you wouldn't trust. But this is a problem, especially if if you're engaged in sexual activity.
That ultimately there's no material difference in terms of in terms of overall outcome, as in we both saw the woman has the ultimate choice. You seem to be on that page of like, yes, the only difference is like you want consultation. I'm okay with no consultation.
Just because,
that doesn't really
again,
affect the outcome.
we have legally decided for a host of reasons that the women gets the ultimate say, which I'm not saying that they shouldn't, right? What I am saying is that a woman, even if they legally can, if it's legally permissible to not tell at all their husband, their spouse, their lover, their one-night stand, their live-in boyfriend, whoever, right? That they can go and just abort on demand at will. I'm saying that they are morally wrong for not informing and consulting the baby daddy.
I would agree with you. Like, I would agree. That's why I said I agree with it that they're probably a bad partner. As in, I would not want to be in a relationship with that person. Okay, like that would be like a red flag to me. Or if they said beforehand, if we had the conversation of like, if I ever got pregnant, I would get an abortion without consulting you. I'd be like, yeah, that's probably not the relationship that I want. And so it's like, I don't think there's a huge gap here. Well, the ultimate end outcome for both of us is like the woman has the final say, right?
Again, yes, legally, but morally, I think both parties should have an equal say.
An equals, so then that is where the actual why is an equals and
because
how would you
it's going to
arbitrate
affect
that?
both of their lives forever, right? If they have that baby, right, both of their lives will be impacted forever. If they choose not to have that baby, right, that also has an impact on their lives, right? Less so. It may free up resources and things like that. They may avoid a potential life-changing consequence, but it does have an effect on both of them. This is a thing.
So that's where I bring up, like, if the legal aspect is set aside, as in there's no legal obligation, it doesn't actually affect the man, right? You do recognize that. So that's.
Hold on. What do you mean it doesn't actually affect the man? Do you not?
Well, you say that it has consequences.
Affected that man in the clip.
Pardon me?
Do you not think it affected that man in the clip to find out that his potential child had been killed?
Well, it emotionally affected him. But,
sure.
there are many.
That matters.
Yes, but, so
that matters.
I don't disagree. Okay, well, we can go down the line of like, should every person's feelings in every single context be taken into account? Because then we get into free speech issues as well in terms of offensive speech. Yes, you should not be able to say these things because they hurt my feelings. Nobody engaged with that argument. Everything that's
Hold on, hold on.
something emotionally
I'm
affects
not
you.
arguing for legal responsibility. I am arguing for ethical and moral responsibility, just like in free speech. Just because you can say anything you'd like, just because I could call you a slur right now, doesn't mean I should. Doesn't mean it's good to do. Doesn't mean I would clap like a seal if someone were to do it to you, right? If someone came up to screen right now and called you a beta, soy, cuck, F-slur, etc., I would condemn them for doing so.
And you would agree that regardless of a person's feelings, okay, that's not, generally speaking, that's not a justification for censoring someone's speech, as in you want to ignore those, like, doesn't matter what your feelings are. And I think the same thing holds true in this specific context of like, regardless of what the man feels about the situation, it's like the woman carries the majority of the risk, all the risk. The woman contributes more, okay, biologically speaking, in terms of egg volume, genome, whatever way that you want to cut it. I'll get into that debate with anybody. And so it's like, well, why should the man be consulted? Or if you want to be, they say they'd be consulted about 1% as much.
Steel
I'm
man
okay
the
with that.
argument for me about why a man should be consulted before a woman aborts his child. Steel man my argument, please.
Yeah. I would say out of being in terms of if you want to cultivate a healthy relationship, a part of a healthy relationship is good and open communication. And so if you're not openly communicating something that will emotionally affect the other person, you're probably not a good partner. And so I agree with you. You should, okay, it's a good thing to do that. That's probably a sign of a healthy relationship, but it's like, I'm not going to legislate that. Or it's very difficult to legislate actually human interactions.
No, again, I'm not asking for a legislation here, at least not in this aspect. What I'm asking for, and I think that you are correct you are partially correct, and I'll tell you why. You don't go far enough. So you're correct in everything you said about the emotions and consulting and them being a bad partner. Yes, true. Absolutely. But I go further than that in my argument. My argument is a man has a right, or at least should have a right morally, I'm not talking a legal right, I'm talking a moral right, to have a say in whether or not his potential child is born. It is his. It is his as well as hers. And he should at least be consulted and have a say before that potentiality is erased.
As long as you're willing to say that it's his in the sense that he just contributes some segment of DNA, a stretch of DNA, but the overall, okay, the vast majority is coming from the mother. And so if you want to scale that in terms of he has this much say relative to his contribution, I'm not necessarily...
I'm not measuring this in the sense of genetic contribution. That's a weird way to measure these things. It's a weird
yeah,
way...
so if you want it, so then if you want it to be 50-50, like, how do you arbitrate that?
I'm already conceding legally if there is a impasse and they are both adamant and will not change, then of course the woman wins by default because of all the things I have said. But just because that might be the case in certain instances does not mean the woman should at least allow the man, at least help him prepare mentally for it. How would you feel? You find a woman, you date her for a year or two, you marry her, 5 years down the road, you have a kid. Okay? During the pregnancy, oh man, the doctors say something about scarring on the uterine walls, and the husband's like, and you ask your wife, why is there scarring on your uterine walls? She's like, oh, I aborted a couple of your kids. Okay. We had this one, but while we were dating for those couple of years, I just aborted them. I didn't even say anything to you. How would you not feel at least a little upset or betrayed or anything?
Well, I would recognize that I probably chose a partner that's not good for me, and that's probably not a healthy relationship, and then I would probably not want to continue that relationship. But I would not necessarily, I would not be upset or super angry about the abortion because like that's on me. I chose them, and they're going to make their own decisions.
Why does a woman not have any responsibility in this situation?
No, I'm curious
you
how
keep
how
saying
this
is on you. Does she not have any responsibility for basically lying to you? She deceived you.
Yeah, she has the responsibility to choosing a right partner, just like she has the responsibility to choose a father that will stick around. Like if it's flipped in terms of she wants to keep the baby and he wants to walk away, it is on her. It's like, well, you chose that man, and so it's on you. You chose pretty much who will be an absent father. That's on you. That is the responsibility goes both
No,
ways.
no, I'm not talking about the responsibility to choose a man that will stay. You're staying. You're there. You're ready. You're ready. You married her. You married the girl. She has a responsibility to tell you if she has an abortion. I think she does. Now, I'm setting aside abusive relationships and everything like that, so we don't even have to get into that rabbit hole. We're not assuming that the rules change in those cases. I would agree. You can, if you fear for your life and you have to deceive someone to not get your shit beat, right? Fair play. But I'm talking in a normal, otherwise healthy relationship. If a man, again, the way Kylo Ren there reacted, entirely understandable, because he'd been robbed. She had stolen from him the opportunity, right? Without even asking.
I don't disagree. But then he chose bad. That's on him. Like, and I'm curious. I'm to tease it out more. How does this intersect with potentially things that are probably in the pipeline sooner rather than later?
Soy pill. Hold on, soy pill. If you want some of the smoke, you can get some of the smoke too. I don't know if you said it, but
so in 5, 10, maybe 15 years, okay, when we get to the world, okay, of gene editing, does the woman have to consult the man if she wants to change the baby's hair color?
Yes, I think that any decision regarding their child should be consulted with. Like if the
Sure.
woman wants to make, well, I'll give you the other example. Say, okay, this future Gattaca-like world, right, where we can gene edit and things. The woman's on the operating table. She falls asleep, and the man decides, without consulting her, hey, give my kid a 12-inch dick, right? Make him black and have a 12-inch dick. It doesn't even ask her.
Your words, not mine.
Yeah, doesn't even ask her, okay? Has that man done something wrong?
Sorry, can you repeat the scenario?
Okay, woman falls asleep, isn't paying attention. The guy comes to the doctor without the woman's knowledge for their child and said, hey, you know what? Let's make some changes. I want the child to be 6'8", basketball star, black, 12-inch dick. And doesn't even ask the woman. Doesn't even consult her. Has that man done anything wrong?
Well, so I would agree. In that context, when the child, I'm talking about actually more in utero, in terms of.
The kid is in her belly right now. She's passed out on the table. She fell asleep.
Oh, well, yeah, for me, that is a crime in terms of you're subjecting the woman to a medical procedure that she's not consenting to. And so, like, I would agree, like, yes.
Oh, no, she consented to the edit. She just thought it was going to be different edits.
Well, then it's not consensual in turn. Like, yeah, that's like, I consented to having my appendix removed.
Do you understand that the woman doing the same thing? You have a relationship, the man is in the picture, they're husband and wife, they decide to have a kid, they go to this future Gattaca world, the woman takes the doctor aside without consulting the husband and says, I want my child to be Chinese. I want him to look Chinese. I don't want him to look anything like the father. I don't like how the father looks. I love him and everything, but he's kind of weird looking. I want it to look like a K-pop star, right? And they don't ask the dad at all. Has that woman done something wrong?
Yeah, I'm the one that brought up this hypothetical, right? It's not like I haven't thought about this, okay? I'm like, yes, that's why you better choose wisely in terms of, like, probably, because since, I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but in all likelihood, okay, the woman will have to undergo the medical procedure to have the child in utero edited genetically, okay? And so she's carrying most of the risk, and so she's probably going to have to be in charge of most of the decisions because she's going to be the one undergoing the medical procedure. And so it's like, yes, as a man, you better choose, hopefully, a partner that's not going to, behind your back, edit your kid, at least not without consulting you, because that is the world that we are slowly moving towards.
So, do you understand
sooner rather than later
that a woman, even though it is her body, that the man has or should have some say in what happens to the baby that they have both made.
I agree. In a typical healthy relationship, that should happen.
And when a woman does
yes.
not, they have wronged the man. They have robbed the man.
That is, I'm not necessarily willing to go that in terms of, I don't know
They've
that it's
done
a moral
something wrong.
obligation.
They've sinned.
That I definitely
Yeah,
would
I don't
not
know.
use
I
that
know you don't
language.
like the sin word, but, right?
No, I would not go so far. They have done something that's not conducive to a healthy relationship. I have no problem admitting that. But it takes two people to cultivate a healthy relationship. And so it's like, yes, you as a man, you chose a partner that's not going to take steps to cultivate a healthy relationship. And then you as a woman, you're also taking steps that's not cultivating a healthy relationship. So no
Let me get some of
surprise.
this money. $20 from Crash Out or Cash Out. Oh, he actually gave me $2 first. Let me read that first. I'm sorry I missed that, sir. Crash Out or Cash Out for $2 says, offing babies is okay. Throwing objects is going too far. Thank you for the $2. And then $20 from the same gentleman to say, this guy ultimately gives no responsibility to women. But if man isn't there, he's bad and will be put on support. Also, sex isn't a right, so if she believes there is risk, her responsibility is to not get pregnant. Thank you for the $20.
I like how I explicitly state that it's the responsibility of the woman to choose a father that's present, and the only thing that here is like this person says no responsibility on the woman. It's like you're clearly not listening. I also have no problem saying that if you as a woman, if you consistently choose abusive partners, that's on you. Okay, how abusive relationships start, those are complex, but like yes, that is on you. Like it's very difficult, and you should learn how to choose healthy partners because most people don't.
So if we agree that she's done something wrong, she's harmed the man in some way, what is your problem with my take that, yeah, Kylo Ren there, kind of right to be a little pissed?
He can be, well, at the end of the day, his feelings are always valid. He can be upset. I do take issue with how he expressed it. Okay, like we're on the same page that throwing things or punching a wall is an unhealthy expression.
Such a minor thing compared to what she did. I think that him sweeping the table of stuff is so minor compared to what he did, or she did, I should say. What she did was way worse.
I disagree there actually. If anything, if in terms of let's say predictive behavior, based off I don't know for sure, but probably the heuristic that someone who's throwing inanimate objects is probably going to abuse women at some point is probably more likely true than not, as opposed to the woman probably not going to be abusive.
I don't know. You already okay. Again, my thesis statement for the night is women are entitled. Women are entitled to men's time, feel entitled, I should say, to men's time, feel entitled to men's bodies, feel entitled to men's affection and love. And when they don't get that, they react, and it's not good. Yes, normally they won't lay hands on you, but they will they will hurt you. They will try.
I agree with you. I agreed with you in the beginning of like there are toxic women out there. There are women that like yes, they feel entitled to a man's body, especially again if you fit a certain aesthetic. Again, if you have abs, many women feel that they're obligated to touch you. Or if you have arms or a chest, it's like yes, the hands come out, especially if they're a little bit inebriated. I've experienced that many times, and like yes, those women exist, and so you should choose wisely. That goes both ways.
Sorry, answering a DM. Okay, my bad. Okay, here, $5 from Crash Out or Cash Out. Responsibility isn't just a verbal lashing, but has to have a forcing mechanism, or what responsibility is being taken. I don't know about that one, Crash Out or Cash Out. I'm not sure where you're going with that. You're gonna have
exactly.
to elaborate a little bit whether I agree with that or not. But I think that the forcing look, first of all, Kylo Ren there should have been like, we're done. That's it, and just walked out. We're done. That's it. That's a relationship killer. Like that kind of betrayal is a relationship ender, just immediately.
Yeah, they probably both have poor relationship skills, and they're like again. I would not be.
No.
I would
Hold
not
on. At least in that clip, he was the only thing he did that was even slightly worthy of condemnation was that sweeping of the table, but that was just so small. It's like well, yes, officer, I stabbed him 45 times, but he cut me off. Like, sure, it's not good to cut someone off. But you stabbed him 25 times. Come on, calm down a little bit, buddy. Right? Like, come on, let's put things in perspective.
Yeah, I never said that he didn't do anything abusive, or rather, I said that he didn't do anything abusive. But
Sure.
generally speaking, okay, throwing inanimate objects or punching a wall or that type of expression of anger, not usually the most healthy. He can feel any way that he wants about it. Just anybody can feel any certain way about anything. But like, yeah, you think that his characterization of like him calling it evil is like it is to that level.
Look, evil's a strong word. But I wouldn't fault anyone for calling it evil. I would think, okay, yeah, I get it. It's evil.
But then, well, it's evil because she just didn't consult, and even though you recognize that she will have the ultimate say, it's borderline evil.
It's evil in the same way had she cheated on him. It's evil in that kind of way.
Well, obviously we view these terms differently. I don't know that it's morally abhorrent to me, and all that.
If you are comfortable with the word evil, fair. That's a fair thing. But it is morally abhorrent. I think that's a good term too. We can go with that.
But yeah, like you do seem to recognize that the man is not contributing all that much. Okay, and I hopefully outlined that.
In terms of genetic code or whatever, I'll just cede your argument. You're the biologist here. Fair enough. But that's not how we make decisions on these things, nor should it be.
I agree. So that's why if you want to take a different route, but anybody saying that it's 50% his biologically is incorrect and inaccurate. It's not 50% the genome. It's not 50% when it comes to, we can get down into cell biology, as in all of the organelles inside the cell is coming from the woman. The Golgi apparatus, the endoplasmic reticulum, the nuclear pore complex, whatever organelle, the lysosomes, the mitochondria, that's all coming from the woman. Okay, so anybody saying that it's 50% his biologically is inaccurate.
Okay, yes, true, Captain Technicality. That's true. That's correct, but it has no bearing, I think, on the moral weight we should put on
I agree with you. So let's set that aside. And anybody using the biology arguments is pretty dumb and doesn't understand the actual biology.
Sure. You know what? Fair. You got me there. But this is not while we make decisions. That's not. We recognize that a man, even if his genetic contribution is a fraction of the woman's, has some say, and we recognize this in a legal sense, and we do recognize this in a moral sense. And by legal sense, I mean in the raising of the child. Well, after the child has been born, the child has been raised, the man has at least some say. In some cases, we give custody to the man because the woman is incapable or these things. And it's generally, in a legal sense, kind of getting a little bit better. It's not there quite yet. We still have a lot of biases towards the mother for reasons both, I think, good and bad. But I do, again, from this clip, I'll say what I said in my tweet. I get it. Honestly, I get why he's pissed. I would be pissed too. And I would judge a man who is not pissed.
Yeah, pissed to that level. I think, because again, I don't, all the risk is going, on the woman. She is contributing most of the vast majority of the biological material. And again, the legal obligation aside, okay, pretty much all the consequences will fall on her. I understand the emotional aspect, obviously, okay, but that's why I'm sympathetic to, like, if you want to now abolish the legal obligation, the financial legal obligation of a man, I can be sympathetic or swayed in that argument. But overall, like, all the stuff, all the onus is on the woman because she is bearing virtually all of the responsibility, no matter how you slice it.
From Crash Out or Cash Out to say 50% his chromosomes guy. I have a childhood friend who had his daughter put up for adoption and he didn't know. He had to find out later and track his daughter down to get her back.
See, and this person doesn't. They're relying on the biology argument. 50% that is irrelevant.
Let's talk about the adoption portion. You would agree that that's evil, correct?
What exactly is the adoption scenario?
According to the super chatter, and he could be lying, I don't know, right? But let's just take him at his word that he had a friend who was with someone. They had a baby, a daughter, and the mother put that baby up for adoption without his consent or say. And he had to find out. He didn't even know at the time that it was apparently put up for adoption, and he had to find out later and track his daughter down to get her back.
I would not characterize that as evil. I would say again.
Well,
not
what is
good.
evil to you then? Let's start there.
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is like Hitler is probably pretty evil.
Hitler is
and,
evil.
like,
Is there anything less than Hitler that is evil?
I don't know enough historical figures. Probably, I'm sure there are many historical figures that are, whatever.
If I killed a child for fun, would I be
Stalin,
evil?
okay,
No,
Pol
if
Pot.
I saw a child walking down the street and I was like, I'm going to shoot that kid, and I shot that kid, is that evil?
It is an act of evil. Yes, probably, almost certainly.
You are okay. Yeah, that's evil. We can just say it's evil. It's evil to kill a child that's walking down the street for no reason at all, right? It's just evil, right? For funsies. I just like okay, if you don't want to use this is hard for me.
Well, would you take issue if I said Trump is evil? Because I would take issue if
I mean, like, only in the sense that you said that you've caged your words and you have been hesitant to call killing a child evil. That's the only reason I might take issue with you particularly calling Trump evil, because I'm like, whoa here. Like, but a normal person calling Trump evil, like, okay, sure, yeah.
I mean, like, yeah. To me, that's a pretty loaded term, at least for me. Okay. Like, I have no problem saying like morally abhorrent. Oh, someone wants to say something.
Oh, sorry. That's why.
That's okay.
Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to. You can continue your thought. I wasn't trying to
continue.
interrupt.
Don't. We're not interrupting you. Go ahead, please. Continue. Finish your thoughts, sir.
Oh, me.
No,
Sure.
Corey.
Okay,
Corey.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like,
Finish your thought,
go ahead.
and then he can go.
No, that's pretty much done. Like, yeah, to me, evil's reserved, at least in my mind, from my subjective perspective, like who I view as actual. I can recognize evil acts, and I can recognize people take steps towards evil. But for me, it's like you have to cross a certain threshold. Just like I don't use the term love haphazardly. Okay.
So
I don't say I love ice cream. Okay, that's not what I do.
You've never said I love ice cream.
I mean, I'm sure as a child, I'm sure I've said it.
But you
like,
never
yes.
okay, so you well, hold on. You don't love this stream? You don't love coming on my show?
I have a strong affection for coming on your show,
Okay.
and you as well.
So that's why.
And I could say that I love you platonically. Sure, absolutely.
Sure. Well, you never.
But I'm
abort
not
my
in love
babies,
with
would
you, Wick. I'm sorry to say.
Would you never? You'd never abort our babies, would you?
I would consult you if
Oh, well,
I
thank
was
you for
pregnant.
at
I
least
would consult you.
consulting.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's why. Go ahead.
So, because we had some bit of a conversation of this prior, at least in the Wick Discord. But like, there's kind of like two facets, like an X and a Y angle here. Is one is saying, what do you expect someone to tell you in a relationship? And so you might say that, like, well, I would expect them to tell me this. In the same sense, you would expect them, if someone was coming home and they were grabbing food on the way home, you'd expect them to text you and let you know, see if you want anything. But that's not like, you like the level of violation is there. So you'd say, what is it, the act? How severe is the act? And then did you expect them to do otherwise? And so what we found is, especially is, and I'm curious if you, Corey, if you, or actually, if Wick, if you want to read your answer is, if you found out she had cheated on you, would you be more or less upset to say, like, I would expect you to have told me you were, like, apparently you've been sleeping with other guys and just never told me. And she's like, well, it's none of your business who I sleep with.
Okay,
Would you be more upset or less than if she had said found out the abortion?
So first of all, I'd be upset in both instances. Let's just get that out of
Yes.
the way. They're
Severely.
both upsetting. They're both betrayal, etc. I would be more upset if I found out she got an abortion without consulting me than if I did then she banged the whole Wick Discord without consulting me.
And Corey, what would be your response?
So your scenario is like they cheated without telling me, or they're telling me at some point.
Yeah. So just as like in scenario one, you're discovering that they had an abortion without telling you. In situation two, you're realizing they've been sleeping with other people and haven't been telling you. And they're just like, well, it's really none of your business what I do with my body. What their answer is basically in both situations.
Would you be upset in either situation, Corey?
Well, no. Like, yes, no matter what, I would be upset, but it
Okay.
would not be necessarily like the way it would be directed and expressed is going to be different. Where in both scenarios, I would also evaluate it of like, especially if these were back-to-back relationships or if potentially the same person, it's like, well, yeah, there's clearly something wrong with how I'm choosing partners. But like the infidelity, if I found out they're cheating, I would probably, yes, I would view that as an act of betrayal. I would be upset. But then once I end the relationship there, I would actually have to do some reflection in terms of like, well, why did I choose someone, or how did this person get past my filter? I have no problem saying that.
Sure. That was the question. Is which one of those two? Which one do you think is more severe? Is cheating? So if you discover them, if one of those had to happen, which one's worse?
Oh,
Finding out they had an abortion without telling you, or finding out that they've been sleeping with other people and just
probably in my view, in either scenario, I'd probably end the relationship regardless. But if
Sure.
gun to my head, if I'm choosing, I would probably view the cheating as the transgression, assuming we actually have the conversation, which I would, in terms of we're on the same page about monogamy, and we are engaging in a monogamous relationship, and so they're engaging in dishonesty, and to me that is that is not morally good. And so, like, yes. Since they morally transgressed, I would hold them accountable for that. And so I would view that as more severely, as opposed to in the scenario where the woman aborting when not telling me, I don't think they have morally transgressed. I think Wick does view it as a moral transgression, but
Yes.
I don't. I recognize that it's almost certainly not a healthy thing to do and not conducive to a healthy relationship, but I don't view it as a moral transgression.
okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. It's more of a, like, as we're like Wick said, it's a gut thing to say which one of these. But the fact that you even had to go like, let me think about it. Let me kind of add in like if we discuss it beforehand, because my thought would be the cheating would be worse instantaneously. There's no thought. And as we learned, people's variations of like how severe of a violation do you feel it was? And so the thing is that some people, and especially I think where Lactoid was, unfortunately he's working, so he can't be here. But otherwise, he would have an interesting thought on this. Is the level of severity that he feels the abortion is, to say what you've done, that he would rather find out like that you've been cheating on him with 7 people of varying ethnic minorities, as he said. Let's just say.
Well, yeah. Lactoid drives a
prefer
motorcycle, so his view of the world is very skewed, and his risk
Because
analysis
he
is
rides
also
a
very,
motorcycle, gang.
absolutely, yes.
Doesn't, anyways, but it's just saying that one is how honest we have to be with each other, and also does how far you're into the relationship change things for you? Well, actually, because I know Wick.
No. Like, so here, I'll let you finish your thought. But what I would say is, like, if, modifying the scenario or your scenario that you brought up of like, if we had a conversation, before this, in terms of like, we're on the same page of that, if you get pregnant, we actually consult each other, and she didn't actually end up doing that, I would view that as a moral transgression, and then I would be upset. And same thing of like, again, for the cheating, assuming we both agreed and have the conversation of we are in a monogamous relationship that we're going to be faithful towards, then to me those are both sort of equal moral transgressions.
Really?
Speaking. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I would like, even if I had a conversation specifically about like, you would talk to me about the abortion, and let's say I thought we were monogamous and it turns out she thinks the otherwise, I would be still more upset, maybe not even directed towards her, but just it would hurt me a lot more to find out about the cheating than even though we'd had the discussion about the abortion thing. It's like, yeah, you should have told me, and I'd be still saying like, how the hell, like, that's, but I wouldn't.
Yeah,
have as much rage.
Here's the problem with this conversation, I feel, right?
Yeah.
Is obviously we have different values, and that's okay, right? But when we look at a situation like in the clip, she doesn't know his values, right? She makes a quip that, oh, you don't even know my middle name. But obviously, she doesn't know his values, right? She doesn't know how large a value he puts on a potential child, right? So maybe he's always wanted to be a father. Maybe that's a dream of his. Maybe he's had trouble fathering kids in the past, and the fact that this one was kind of like a miracle baby, right? She doesn't know any of that, but she made the decision to take away any input, that any chance he could have had to tell her any of this information. Like, hey, you know what? I know we're not ready for a kid right now, maybe, but look, I've struggled all my life to father a child. It's always been a dream of mine. It's ended a couple past relationships because I was impotent, the fact that I got you pregnant is a miracle. We should have this kid. Maybe we can have a close friend raise it or something. I don't know, but I really want this kid. And she never got. She didn't even think about him. She didn't even consider his feelings. She didn't even consider anything about him. She just robbed him.
That would.
I agree that they're probably both toxic. But then again, it's like, well, the man chose a toxic partner. Again, if the shoe was on the other foot, she wanted to keep it, and therefore she wanted to start a family, and he was like, no, I'm not up for that. It's like, well, sorry, like you chose this person. Like, again,
they've been together for 7 weeks. The idea goes like, well, I mean, like, then, like, it's been 7 weeks. You should have intimate details about every aspect of their life, and you've properly vetted them. You're like, well, no, you're kind of in the vetting stage there.
Well, no.
That says on 7 weeks in, you should have that level of absolute.
I think you're going. I agree with you. You shouldn't know everything about the person after 7 weeks. But if you're going to actually start having sex, which I think it's, I could be wrong, but I think it's safe to say that they had sex since she got pregnant and abortion.
Yes, it was a sexually active relationship. Yeah.
and so if you're going to engage with that, you should discuss the potential consequences and the outcomes of what those consequences would be. And if you're not, that's on you.
Yeah, you should discuss those things, but that still doesn't change the fact that there's certain level of assumptions in relationships. And the question is that a reasonable assumption? I would say, yeah. The idea goes, well, no, we didn't discuss it. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that it turns out that I was never even going to mention it to you. I was just like going to let that one slide. And the answer is, well, no, you probably something's probably off. Like, I think there's probably deeper and other issues that you have if your default position was, I got pregnant, I'm currently dating the guy for 7 weeks, and I'm not even going to tell him about it. There's something bigger issue there.
I'm curious then, if, let's say, if they never had the conversation about actually being in a relationship, okay, and that never happened, should he just assume that she's not sleeping with other men?
It's going to be completely context. If they didn't have the exact conversation, but they've been together for 7 weeks, there's circumstances in which it could be like so obvious that they're together that it didn't come up. And there's situations where it could be pretty like, well, we saw each other on 3 dates over the course of 7 weeks, at which points I would say no. It's going to be more deep because like once you're in that, it's almost like you don't have a formal agreement. It's going to be not the look. It's going to be a holistic thing. If you're showing up to people's,
I'm saying look as in, look, I'm trying to make a point here. So first of all, $5 from Crash Out or Cash Out. Thank you for the $5. More people should give me money. Give me your money, ladies and gentlemen. Either Twitch subs or super chats or any of that. It really helps keep the light on around here. Really appreciate you. Crash Out or Cash Out for $5 says, despite values, not all choices bear equal responsibilities and bind to certain societal obligations. This is the core of the issue. Thank you for that $5. $5 more than Zephyr Hash. Thank you for the $5. Says, should women be expected to know beforehand that their partner will become abusive, alcoholic, non-committal 10 years later? No, they shouldn't. But you could look for warning signs. Like, it's not your fault.
They should be able to predict the odds and the probability. Yes. No one can predict the future.
It's context. Yes. It's contextual in any of these cases. But look, there is a societal expectation, and I would argue this is a very common societal expectation. Maybe less common among you youngsters, but I think it's still there. That if you're having sex, you're monogamous.
So and that assumption is a bad assumption, and that leads to so many toxic outcomes. Like,
hold on,
if you're in a
but you understand that most people assume if they're banging someone, unless they've said it was open, the default is, oh, we're at least boyfriend and girlfriend or something, right?
That's dumb. See, and even right now, so no one should operate under that.
Hold on. I want to ask the chat. Okay, one's in chat. If I'm right here, that's a common. If you're banging someone, you assume some level of relationship there, right? Two's in chat. If I'm entirely off base. So we got one, two.
Just a little bit more detail from you, because maybe I do agree. I just want to make sure. So if there was like a Tinder date and you're on date 1 and then you guys end up sleeping together on date 1, you assume that already that you're boyfriend and girlfriend with no discussion, they're already committed to monogamy, or would you say that's
okay? If you're getting it on Tinder and it's this one night stand, okay. But if you've been on 3 dates and on the 3rd date you bang, then you're boyfriend and girlfriend. At least I would assume. If I'd gone on a date, hold on, just real quick. If I've been on 3 dates with a girl, and then we hook up, and I bang her, yeah, I assume that we're going out.
Really?
Yes.
You wouldn't have. I guess I would have that conversation. You might want to have the conversation, but I probably wouldn't.
right? We would have that conversation, but my default would be like, oh, okay, we had sex, so she's just going to consent to this, and we're going out now.
Yeah. That is a bad heuristic. That's a dumb way.
But I think
to
for the most
navigate
part,
the date.
I mean, it'd be just because I mean, we're creating a scenario where it says what happens when that happens, and then we don't ever talk about it, and we just make an assumption. And you go, how? Like, I think that's pretty rare. So it might be that after 3 days you sleep together, that conversation happens right then and there. But I think, like, yeah. So like, I guess I probably agree with you, Wick, but not to the extent that goes the scenario of you're dating this person multiple times, you're sleeping with them, and you have never had any conversation about the status of your relationship.
My point of all this is that there are societal norms that we understand that are reasonable people understand, like, oh, hey, I understand when you're in a relationship, a reasonable person understands that you don't go out and have orgies with the Wick Discord while you're dating someone else. You don't usually have to have that conversation specifically. You can assume that if you are dating someone and you are girlfriend and boyfriend, and you've talked about this and you are girlfriend and boyfriend, you can't have orgies on the side. That if,
I would agree with that.
If either group has orgies on the side, and shout out to Nicholas Decker, the greatest poster who ever lived, who got, through his tweets, a gangbang with Ayala, right? That just happened. Shout out to him, honestly. You understand that that's generally, I don't have to ask. Okay, if I've been dating a girl with her for a year, even if we never discussed it, I don't have to ask to know if I was going to go have a gangbang. That would be wrong, and I shouldn't do it. It would be cheating. That's not something I have to discuss.
I'd be saying so that if you, especially for the year thing, it goes, if you two are dating, so especially if you guys have confirmed you're together in a relationship, then the assumption is you're monogamous. If someone wants to be open, then it would be on them to make you aware that says, actually, I'm down to be in a relationship, but not a monogamous one. Like, they would be, the onus would be on the person who wants the open to make that aware. Because
it's funny.
The assumption is
Twitch
monogamous.
is almost entirely against my take here. YouTube's almost entirely for my take. YouTube and Twitch are fighting and beefing. Anyway.
I'm curious how this potentially intersect. Like, if you, let's say, go on 3 dates with someone, okay, you haven't had sex yet. Do you assume that they're not dating someone else at the same time?
I would not assume that.
No, I would not assume that. But if I'm having sex with them,
even then, I wouldn't make the assumption. That might prompt a conversation, but it wouldn't make it. I wouldn't start an assumption. Obviously, I'd be assuming. I don't know why I would get a year without having the conversation. But hypothetically, if you were dating someone for a year and they're like, let's say they even moved in with you, that at which point I would assume. But I feel like that's how much information you'd need. But like, if it was 3 dates and we've slept together, and I didn't, I'm like, but if I'm that, at that point, you'd want to say something. I guess I wouldn't assume. I would say something.
Well, yeah, I would never, virtually never get deep into a relationship a year later and have not had the conversation about monogamy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where we're getting like a wild scenario that says in some situation you're dating, you have your 1 year anniversary, but you don't know if you're dating or not.
You better look again. So my point here is that I think it is a societal, or it should be, if it is not, we should make it a societal norm that there is an understanding that if you have had slept with someone and you're thinking of getting an abortion, you should talk to the person who fathered your child before you do that.
I would say that's probably a good and healthy thing to do, but not doing it is not a moral transgression.
We shouldn't have to have a conversation. That should be understood. It's better to have a conversation, I agree, to remove all doubt. But I think it should just be common sense, common courtesy, that before I abort this kid, I should ask the father first, or at least tell the father that, hey, I'm thinking of aborting this kid.
The only thing that I guess I disagree with in terms of I would not be interacting with this person again. I don't necessarily condone what they do, but I don't view it as a moral transgression, and I don't think they have an obligation. Okay, and we both recognize that at the end of the day, regardless of the consultation, the woman has the ultimate say in terms of the outcome of that zygote. And And to my point, I mean, I can show you the text messages in terms of I've had this conversation in terms of with a woman. I never
don't
actually
need
got
to
a
see
woman.
your conversations with other
But like,
women
yes,
about whether you.
I made explicitly clear that if she were to get pregnant, okay, and even though I knew beforehand what her stance on abortion was, and she didn't want children, so I was highly confident that she was going to get, if she got pregnant, she would get an abortion. But like, yes, no surprise to me that when she thought she might have been pregnant, she told me right away, like, oh, I am late. And all that stuff. We had those conversations, and you should have those conversations before actually engaging in sex with someone and bearing the responsibility of those consequences. That's what's part of being adults, and we should cultivate being an adult.
Okay.
Yeah, I expect that the actual scenario in this show doesn't come up that often, where people have been dating for 7 weeks, they acknowledge that they're together, and that the girl gets pregnant and then doesn't tell the guy, and then she gets an abortion and then tells him afterwards in like a nonchalant. Like I would imagine we're in like single digits number of times.
We do have to wrap this up because I have another guest who's waiting. Van All In's going to be talking about race swapping in shows and in Hollywood, and he thinks it's a big deal that they made Hermione Granger a little darker of skin. I don't, so we're going to argue about that. But before we do that, right before we switch over, I want to give both Corey and Zetsue here a chance to kind of closing thoughts, closing statements. What are their thoughts? And I want to add, right? I want to add that the intent of the show's authors, as I've been informed, was to paint the man's reaction as inappropriate and over the top. And I think that if that was their intent, and I'm just going to assume it is, because I've been told that, and maybe I've been lied to, I don't know. They did a piss poor job because that man came off as super empathetic and that woman came off as kind of a cunt. And that's my thought. Okay? Corey, you can give your closing and then Zetsue, and then we can bring Van All in. Van All in, if you're waiting, jump backstage and get ready to be pulled in.
I mean, I would say his expression of anger was way over the top. No matter what, okay, again, it's not abusive, but you should pretty much never be throwing inanimate objects or punching a wall. Okay, you should probably learn to manage your emotions better as an adult, and that goes for both men and women. Okay, most abuse is reciprocal between men and women, and yes, okay. I want to make it explicitly clear. Anybody saying that the child is 50% his because of biology doesn't understand biology. Again, to go through it all, the egg is at least 10,000 times bigger, okay, than the sperm. And if you talk about the genome, you have to consider the fact that the DNA, you have mitochondrial DNA, that's all coming from the woman. And not only that, you get all the organelles from the woman. Again, the Golgi apparatus, the rough ER, the smooth ER, the mitochondria, the lysosomes. I can go down the list of all the organelles. And so at the end of the day, anybody relying on biology to say that it's 50% the man's is incorrect. Okay, so I just want to, everybody should just chuck that out the window. And I agree, okay, with Wick that in terms of a healthy relationship, it's good to have open communication. And yes, in the ideal world, okay, both people should consult each other in terms of these types of decisions. But at the end of the day, okay, it doesn't matter in terms of all the risk, all the responsibility, and all the biology is coming from the woman, and therefore she has the ultimate say. And so I side with that. And she did not morally transgress. I think that's ultimately where the disconnect is. And I'll leave it there for now. And thank you so much for having me on.
No, thanks for being here. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 94, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, it's Corey, and Substack, it's Corey Campbell. My second piece should be out next week, hopefully.
Okay. Check him out, gang. Thanks for coming here, and we'll have you on again soon. I'll talk to you later, buddy. This way.
It's not too much of a closing. It's just if you have open conversations in your relationships, you can avoid a lot of these problems. And then then Kylo Ren will be happy, and that makes me happy. I don't have any links or anything. Just a Wick viewer. Have a good one.
Hey, see you guys later. Bye-bye. What do you think, gang? It's like talking to aliens. Talking to people I just don't understand their worldview. I just don't. I don't get it. I don't, at a fundamental, get someone seeing that as not a big deal. It was your kid, bro, and she just yeeted it without even asking. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Again, I'm pro-choice in the legal sense, right? I recognize where restricting abortions, overly so, can be very harmful, can lead to a lot of bad outcomes. And there are edge cases, right, where we do need abortions. But when it comes to, I'll just put it this way. If a woman asks me, should I get an abortion, and they ask for my advice, I would say no in almost every instance. The only instances I could think I would say, yeah, probably, is if she might die because of it. I'm sure there's others you could probably throw at me that'd be like, okay, probably that too. But again, legality and morality are different. They are related, but they are not the same, and it's important to recognize that. Van All In, where are you doing? What's going on? Why aren't you in my server? Van All, yeah, I'll invite you. Invite sent. Click that link, buddy. Do you not see the roles? Okay, I gave you a role. Refresh if you need. There he is. There he is, kings. Okay. Kings and queens. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Hello, you're live, sir.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, let me turn you up just a smidge, but otherwise, you're all the way 200%. So could you turn yourself up just a smidge, please?
Yeah, is that better?
Yes, it is. Do you have a camera for us today?
I do if need be. Give me one quick second.
Yeah, sure. Okay, welcome to the show. So, I guess to kind of switch gears a little bit, because we had a little bit of a talk about a clip from a show, led to abortion discussion, led to a discussion about responsibilities on both the men and the women's side. Let's talk a little bit about race swapping in Hollywood. So recently, there was a release of the casting for the new HBO show. I believe it's on HBO. I'm pretty sure it's on
Yes,
HBO.
it is.
Yeah, HBO show on Harry Potter, where it's going to be a serial, and they're going to have the show. I don't honestly care that much about Harry Potter. I'll be real with you. Like, I'm not a child. But a lot of people seem to be very upset about the casting choices placed in the show. The one that got us to have a conversation today was the casting choice of Hermione Granger. And let me see if I can find a picture of that for you guys real quick, just so I show everyone. Give me a second. But introduce yourself and kind of give your take while I'm looking for this, right? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Van All In. I mainly just keep to myself, and I like to work on writings, talking about philosophy and religion, and mainly just shoot the shit in regards to most of life. I feel like to preface what is going to be this conversation, because you even titled it a debate, I think it's just going to be two different types of leftists looking at what is the development of a new Harry Potter film. Especially just because, like you even described, I am a bit younger. So that gives me a bit more, like, care about it than I guess it would for you. A bit of fervor in regards to something like this.
You're more passionate on the subject? Fair enough. If you click the watch screen, you can see the casting choice right there. These are the new faces of the Harry Potter. And can you see the mouse moving, buddy? I'll just
Yes,
ask you straight up. Do you have a problem with this casting choice?
No, I don't.
Do you have a problem with this casting choice?
Yes, because he's not wearing glasses.
Okay, I'm sure they're gonna give him glasses in the show. Okay, let's just assume. Okay, fair enough. If the costuming's an issue for you, I'll go with you there. What about this one?
No, I don't directly have any issue with the casting of Arabelle Stanton to play Hermione Granger, and it's for a very specific reason. It continues J.K. Rowling's ideas when the play The Cursed Child came out. If anything, if we're looking at the ideas of race swapping with Harry Potter and the creation of the HBO show, my personal difference that I have is with their recreation of Severus Snape being played by Papa Ezidue.
Let me find that for the here. I'll just so I don't. We're gonna close that for a minute so no one can see me Google this, right? Just in case. I don't think I have any weird things that are gonna pop up, but you never know. Let
No
me
Vosh
get
moments,
that.
right?
Oh no. Snape casting HBO. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go.
Did you, just because, and you did say you weren't much of a Harry Potter fan, did you even know that J.K. Rowling gave approval about Hermione being played by a black actress for the play?
No,
And she
I
even
did
specified
not.
that I never picked a race for Hermione.
Fair enough. But you have a problem with this guy. Why?
So it goes into, especially with what we are going to be discussing later on, an aspect of how they are going to have to recreate the aspects of the story, especially when it comes later on to what is the animosity that is felt for those that are Muggle born, where it is a soft key of racism, where they're either going to have to erase that due to cultural insensitivity of time, or they are going to have to go full force, which nobody will like.
Isn't that the point, though, that you not like the racism? Isn't that the point of the story?
Forgive me.
To kind of
Do you
show, hold on, if I may finish here, to show that racism is wrong and bad, and the whole mudblood epitaph they give to these people, to these Muggle-borns, half Muggle-borns or whatever, that this is wrong. Shouldn't the audience not like it when that happens?
I very much agree that of course they shouldn't like what is direct racism, but especially if what we're thinking of like aspects of mudblood and inclusion in this regard, if we wanted to expand the lore, we could utilize the motifs that were created in Hogwarts Legacy, rather than just swapping and then what is creating an ideal of racial essentialism within the world of Harry Potter, when that is not, in my, of course, opinion, the key focus within the Harry Potter text. It's a rejection of those that they don't understand in the Harry Potter world. Wizards and witches being born of muggles naturally, where it is uncommon because it's usually like with the Weasleys or the Malfoys, of both parents being wizards and that continuously passing. Because especially if we think of how it's actually structured in the time of Lord Voldemort, the Ministry of Magic, it is a animosity and complete rejection of those that are mudbloods or whatever you want to call them, but a wanted control as if they were slaves of muggles directly. Especially if we think of like the fountain and how they created where the muggles were under the boot, and equally so in the Ministry of Magic creating the registration.
So if I'm understanding your argument correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you are worried that the casting of Snape as a black man will water down the racism, or at least obfuscate what the authorial intent was going for in showing the Muggle-born versus the purebloods, the mudbloods versus the purebloods, and kind of make that harder for the audience to pick up on. Is that your argument?
No, that's not my argument. It was just when we were looking at the actual cast being picked for the new HBO, if we're going to go on like personal preference, what's going on, and a bit of dejection, that is my personal dejection because it's not the picking of Hermione Granger.
It's
and
Snape.
It would be like specifically
That's what I'm talking
with
about
Snape.
when I'm saying the Snape. In the casting of Snape as a black man, you think they should not have casted a black man for Snape, for Severus Snape, because it would interfere with the story beats or the message that was being tried to convey through the character of Snape. Is that
I
your
cannot
argument?
say
I'm just
for
trying to,
certain,
I'm trying
but
to
in
understand
my
your argument, and that's all I'm doing. So, is that a fair characterization of what you're arguing tonight?
well, in regards to all of this, and what I'm planning on arguing is that it's going to mainly be a lazy cash grab, where they're trying to have inclusive ideals, but they're failing on what could actually be an expansion on the lore, where they're either going to have to try and recreate the actual, inner changes between Hermione and Draco to get rid of what could be possible racial issues within our time, or they could actually add the additional lore that within the expanded Hogwarts universe, like in Hogwarts Legacy, where they have an entire school that's based in Africa. It's actually a really interesting addition. I have an entire section in my notes just about it.
I don't see how casting Snape as a black man would interfere with having any sort of further lore expansion
Do
into
you
a
think
wizarding school in Africa.
do you think my issue is with the race or the weak addition and expansion of the lore with the making of the show?
So I think that you are saying that the race selection is a cheap cash grab, is what you said, right? Instead of
Yes.
using the lore thing. So is it not possible that this gentleman who has been casted that happens to be black simply plays the role better than the other choices?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So why do you say it's a cash grab?
Well, because if we're immediately just thinking of what is the idea of trying to have inclusive elements within stories, like later on when I'm going to, within my intro and everything that I wrote out,
Sure.
they
But I'm
equally do
just
so
really
in other
curious. Like I
instances.
don't mean to cut you off, but
Well, I'm giving
think
an example.
I think you're misunderstanding me, and I want to be more clear. I think that I'm curious what your evidence is that him being chosen had anything to do with his race.
Okay. The aspect that it is a show that takes place in the 90s within the cultural notions, right, of England, and them casting a gentleman. And I'm not saying that there is any issue with it, but do you not believe that it is going to cause a communication online and fervor about the show directly, just by the casting choice?
Well, obviously, in the culture we're in now, any sort of black casting is seen as, by some, a DEI hire and is used to push cultural narratives. But I don't think that the show, its producers, its casting directors, etc., should be beholden to a mob of people who are going to try to enforce a certain white standard upon these characters. I don't see Severus Snape, and I haven't read all the extended lore. I have read the books, so I saw the movies. I know the story. His race it had nothing to do with his character. The fact that he was a white man
Didn't.
had nothing to do with his character. It did not play into it
What
at
had
all.
massively to But what did have massive connection with Snape as a significant figure is especially with the 5th through 7th books of his being of his inclusion with Voldemort's army and being a spy and counter spy. Where especially if we think prior to Harry of how they're going to talk about what are some of the actual lore creations of pre-Harry, it will have what is actual issues when it comes to how people understand what is going on overall with the story. Do you disagree with that?
I do disagree with that. I don't think that them seeing a wizard, right, who was half mudblood, who was chosen to be in Voldemort's army as a counter spy to spy on the other side. I don't think that seeing him as a black man will impact that in the audience's ability to buy into that sort of role that Severus is playing in the story. I don't see that at all. And I'm struggling to see why it would.
What was the reason that everybody hated Draco within the stories and movies, as you just described that
He
you
was a
read and
dick.
watched?
He was a
And
dick.
in what way was he a dick?
He would
In what way?
push people, bully him around, challenge them, be violent. He betrayed people. He would lie. He was an elitist.
Exactly, and especially when we
Do you
look at
think
the
that they
inner
didn't like him
dynamics
because he
of
was white?
what?
Do you think that they didn't like Malfoy, Draco Malfoy, because he was white?
No, it's because he was directly prejudicial against Hermione, especially in the second book when calling her a mudblood, and Ron tries to curse her.
If Draco
Which do
Malfoy
you not see
had
how
been
that can
black,
lead to
would
greater
that have
issues?
hold on? If Draco Malfoy had
Mhm.
been black, would that have changed the interaction in that scene?
Do you not think it's significant that he is as white as snow with blonde hair and a motif of Aryan ideal? It is a push that the Malfoys like embodied the Nazi notion. Do you disagree with that?
I think that, yes, that was obviously the play that they were going for with the aesthetics of the time, but I don't think that's central to the character. And also, I think it would actually maybe enhance the fundamental mysticism of the world to see that it's not the skin color that made these decisions, but the purity of magical blood. And I think that making that separation is a fine choice. Now, to be clear, I'd be okay if he was white too. I don't think that the skin color is the thing that is at play in the story. I think it is the purity of the blood. And I understand that they were referencing an Aryan kind of Third Reich or whatever Nazi
Natural
shit,
purism
right?
of the
Yeah,
blood
yeah.
type of deal, yeah.
But there are a plentiful ways to do that without
Mhm.
skin color. You could absolutely do it with different skin colors.
I agree. Then why did they pick for Grindelwald? What was an English actor? Could it not have been fair that he was played by an African man? In the same way
Hold
as you're
on.
elucidating about Draco Malfoy?
Do you not think black people can be English?
I'm not saying that I
Okay.
was just
No,
as for a quick
I think the
example.
word choice
Obviously,
is
I believe black people can be English.
yes.
Forgive
I'm
me for
not,
saying
it's not a
African. I
gotcha.
should have said
Well,
black man.
it's not a gotcha, but it's telling. I think that you refer to Grindelwald as an Englishman, assuming that that white and English were synonymous in that. And I think that that's, again, a mistake. I think that we can see people who are English to their core and to their bone, who are skin is much darker than mine. And I've seen people with skin way wider than mine that aren't English at all, right? I think that the Englishman type thing doesn't have to do with their skin color, and it can be perfectly well portrayed. Grindelwald could be perfectly well portrayed as a black man, if he was English, if he was, again, shown as English in the show.
Okay, so especially when we're thinking of stuff like this, why would he be played, especially if we're thinking of the time period being about late 80s, early 90s to mid 2000s?
Okay,
Why would they
hold
be
on,
played
Tuna
by
Chip.
of course.
Yeah, Tuna Chip, if you want to hop in, go ahead. You got a lot of say in the chat, but hop in the backstage. We'll play in. But I'm sorry to interrupt. Repeat your statement, please.
Well, I was just simply going to ask you, especially if we're thinking about what is the role that can be played by a British man, and we're just thinking of these notions, why do immediately to a black man and not an Indian if we are thinking of what is an immigration patterns around the time?
I think that
Is it
first of
not
all,
an ego ideal to immediately think of the minority as being black?
I think that it enhances the differences between the real world and this fantastical wizardling world to show that wizards are not choosing by skin color, but judging by and being racist by another metric. I think that it muddles the water, no pun intended, to again use real world kind of tropes to, in my opinion, lazily portray real world or this fantastical racism. I think that it misses a trick. and being able to show that these fault lines are just as harmful but fall in different directions is also a good thing. I see Tuna chips in, but you can respond, and then I'll let Tuna respond. So
Well, just regarding all of this, just because it's semi-confusing to me, what
okay.
what is your expectation with the actual making of an identity appealment? Because it sounds as if you're saying, I don't care, but it is a good thing that they're being inclusive, but the manner in which that you are wanting or describing
I
is
don't care about the
matter
inclusivity.
problematic.
I don't care about the inclusivity. I
Then
care
why are
of
you
merit,
petitioning for it?
and I'm caring.
Especially if I'm trying to talk about a way of making it proper within the time and increasing, an increase to an identity appeal.
Okay, so I'll just ask you real quick, and then we'll get Tuna in here.
Of course.
And I don't know this is the case, right? I don't know, but let's assume, for the sake of the hypothetical, that it is, that this black gentleman auditioned for the role of Snape, and out of all the people who auditioned, white, black, Asian, doesn't matter, Jewish, Muslim, doesn't matter, he portrayed the role the best. Should the directors have said, you know what, you did the best job, but you're black, so should they have done that? Should they have selected someone who was worse at the role, but was white?
Do you? No, I don't,
And
obviously.
am I
But
okay
do
to?
you believe that they were more picked because they were the better actor, or it would be for a way of immediately getting attention and an audience basis immediately? In my mind, I think Star Wars is what we see with the Disney recreations.
I think that we have no evidence, or I have no evidence, that they chose it based on as a money grab or to attention grabber or anything like that. I think that I'm going to default until I see otherwise to the assumption that the best man for the job got the job. I want to give Tuna a chance to jump in here.
Is that true with every film, though?
No, obviously not. And you can tell because sometimes they go into the interview and said we wanted a diversity was the number one metric
Priority,
that we had
yeah.
in deciding our cast. And in that case, then yeah, that's bullshit. But I don't
So
have
then
any. I
don't you
haven't seen
equally
that
think
evidence
that
for
you're
this one.
assuming too early that he is the right actor for the role if we haven't even seen it? Whereas the speculation upon, hey, we're picking this guy because it's an immediate appeal and to garner a base viewership is more appropriate.
I don't think that's more appropriate. I think it's weird that you would think it's more appropriate because we have no evidence either way. So why not default to the fact that the casting directors are doing their goddamn job?
Wick, you want me to step in?
Yes, step in, Tuna.
Okay, so I'll get to answer. I have a different answer
Go ahead.
than Van here to that previous question. I'll get to it in a second. The first thing I'm going to say is that the world of Harry Potter is very much so making a commentary on class and race. That is part of the story. So replacing Snape, a Slytherin, with a black man is a particularly weird choice. Similar to how if we were playing Inglourious Bastards, if we just started shoving in black Nazis, it would muddle the point of the plot. You know, Aryan blood is very much so what the Slytherin trope is meant to speak about. The reason that it's bad to water it down is not just because, oh, well, you're losing the concept a bit. It's because there are other people then who the whole world kind of falls apart. Why are the Weasleys considered low class despite being a long lineage of pure-blooded wizards? It's because they're Irish. We're talking about British culture here. So when we suddenly have it so that black men are in the echelons of British society in this analog, while the Irish are still below, you've replaced the wrong person inside of the plot. You've actually broken the symmetry with the real world that is meant to be commented on. You're making it so that it's less likely to actually take. I could very easily see the Weasleys being black. I could very easily see replacing any of the
The
foreign exchange
Lovegoods.
students. Say it again.
The Lovegoods, even. The Lovegoods would be a perfect example.
It's so you don't have to be oppositional to the idea of like black replacement. It doesn't have to be about this idea of like propaganda, because I personally don't think that the casting call, like of all casting calls for that, Slytherins are the ones who I would be looking for the whitest people possible, because it's crucial to the plot.
But in the plot, one of the reasons
Especially-
that Severus Snape was seen as an outsider even for the Voldemort gang was because he was he called himself the Half-Blood Prince, right? They made a whole book on this, right? So of all the Slytherins that might be cast as a lower class, Snape's the guy.
Okay, so are you looking for like a mixed black-white man? Are you looking for a light-skinned black man? It's really important to recognize that he's the half-blood prince, not the black prince. It's like we're talking about how did he get his foot in the door? He has to get his foot in the door. We are talking about a racially segregated society, and you just suddenly decided to like lose a strong. Your argument makes a little bit of sense, and inside of British culture, I'm telling you right now, the original Snape casting call was pretty much right on the money for what for British culture would be considered not pure enough for the higher echelons, right? Like Snape looks. Snape's character is meant to look a little bit like he's like half Jewish. That's kind of what they're going for.
I mean, maybe. There's been some
It's very obvious.
accusations.
Like they distrust him.
Anti-Semitism of J.K. Rowling.
Like they specifically chose the actors that they did inside of that plot for the Slytherins in order to evoke the concept of the Nazis. Now, if you want to do a complete world reinterpretation, like a spin-off, we already did that. We've already done that a couple of times with shows. People get a lot less mad about that because they recognize, well, wait a second, this is trying to do something distinctly different, but you have to change more than one thing in that case. You would have to change the Weasleys. You would have to change the Slytherins in general. You'd have to like actually reconstruct the class narrative that's implicit to Harry Potter for it to make sense. Things would have to be symmetrical up and down.
I disagree, but I want to give our friend Van. Is that how you say your name, Van? Van all in?
Yeah, yes. It's just, to me, especially when we're thinking of this, and Tuna Chip, everything you were saying was what I was thinking, so thank you. But if we are just thinking of notions that are racist within the Harry Potter world, it, in my mind, would be when Warner Brothers took Lavender Brown, who was played by a black actress for, I believe, the first 3 movies, up until she was supposed to date Ron within the Goblet of Fire, and they changed her into a white woman.
I don't remember that, but fair. I'll.
Do you guys not recall this? It was like a big issue at the time. And Warner Brothers' excuse was just, oh, well, we picked an actor that was better known.
I think it's fine that they did that, honestly. The only issue I would have in that is consistency. So what I mean by that is the characters should generally be consistent throughout iterations of like sequels. So Harry Potter 1, the characters should be the same or look pretty much the same in Harry Potter 2, 3, etc. So making huge changes there. Like if for the Half-Blood Prince, if they had already put out 5 Harry Potter movies, and then the 6th Harry Potter movie comes out, and now Severus Snape is black, then yes, I think you have a strong case to be like, that's bullshit. I understand your argument about class things, but remember, again, one of the reasons Voldemort chose Severus is he could blend in and be a double agent, be a spy, right? And I think that doing that is, again, picking him and casting him as a black man is perfectly appropriate. I don't think it hurts the story arc. I don't think it hurts the character itself, and I don't think it hurts any of the story beats. And it's I would
like to say though,
I find it weird that you guys are
Well, I just wanted just to say as a bit of clarification when it comes to Snape and how he came about being a spy. It was initially that he just was an errand boy for the other Voldemorts, but his initial going was wanting to defend Harry's mother and being sent by Dumbledore. Especially when we see, I think it was in the flashback during the pensive in the 5th or 7th book, to describe of why Snape does turn and of his going or of his reasoning being all about his love for Harry's
yeah,
mother.
he loved Harry's mother. That's why he's protective a little bit of Harry, and he protects him in the first book and things like that. He's that's a line he won't cross, right? And it turned him. I get that. Again, I don't think his skin color plays either into that in any way.
It really, I think that you're missing the early experience of meeting Snape here. Because another thing that you're meant to feel when you first meet Snape, not being a person who knows everything about the entirety of the lore from top to bottom and is doing a rewatch, you're supposed to mistrust him. He's supposed to be, so in the same way that he's meant to slip in, he is all supposed to not stick out. Like he's supposed to be a villain in the same way that all of the other Slytherins are. He is your introduction to what exactly corruption looks like on the inside in the education system for Slytherins. Like, what are you thinking in potions class when you are Harry, Ronald, when you're, I don't know how to describe it.
Do you think black people are more or less trusted by people in general? Just in general.
What are you on about, man? You're supposed to recognize that he's a Slytherin just like every other Slytherin.
I'm putting out that, as you said, you're supposed to mistrust him, just like you would
as a Slytherin.
So
from the perspective of Harry Potter, you're supposed to think of this man as being analogous to one of the people that killed your mother.
Yeah, he's an enemy.
It's supposed to be a surprise that he was different than the other Slytherins.
Yes, I don't think his skin color plays into that surprise.
You don't think so? That that him being the only black Slytherin would not shock or...
First of all, in the original movie, there were black Slytherins.
Well, especially with continuing Tom...
You guys know that, right? There were black Slytherins in the student's body and stuff like that. And in the extended universe, there's been black Slytherins, too, in the games and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with it. I just don't think that... I think that it muddles the thing. I do think that Harry Potter has gone down as they've made more decisions where, like... this is the problem with a lot of woke media, quote unquote, which Harry Potter was from the very beginning. Woke not being in this insulting term, but like literally being like, there is an undertone, there is a subcontext where we are talking about socio-political factors. The first book does a great job of laying down a framework of understanding race and class relations inside of Britain at the time of its writing. That is the point of Snape, and I don't think that you should make, because they've already ruined the world, we should continue ruining it. It's just not right. The main characters need to still embody. I think people turn a blind eye to several different changes and think to themselves, oh, well, that's a minor character. The core center of the Slytherin, power in the Slytherins, is still essentially Aryan. Like, you're supposed... I don't know why this has to be a like core gotcha of like, well, because they have some, or there is this... We're talking about the most important characters, the most important story beats of the plot, and what the characters make you think of. You're supposed to think that he is essentially the Nazi teacher that is ruining Harry's life and education.
Again, as I said to Van, I understand that that's the references that are being made by J.K. Rowling, the author, to show that these are bad guys. She draws on a lot of those tropes, but I think you're leaning too hard into that as an exact one-to-one when I don't think it necessarily has to be nor should be. I think that there should be, and as I said earlier, this understanding that there are different reasons of fault lines. So while, yes, it may be an allegory about class, that class in and of itself isn't the final founding line. It is how much magic blood you got, how much magic power, how pure your blood is.
Yeah, what is blood?
Magically, not racially.
What is blood? What is blood?
It's blood. I don't know. What answer do you want here?
It sounds so stupid, man. It's flesh. What is flesh? Skin. It's race. It is absolutely about genealogy. It's all one. I don't understand why you think that blood isn't being transfused around. This isn't Bloodborne. This is Harry Potter.
Significance? Well, not even just that. Why is it so significant within the Chamber of Secrets that Harry is able to speak parcel tongue? Why is that so significant, Lick?
It's significant because it's seen as a Slytherin's trope kind of thing, that, oh, the Slytherins are the ones with this power, and, oh my god, look at me, I have some Slytherin blood in me.
I understand that.
Slytherin power.
I understand your take on this general opinion. I'm gonna dip out because I just really wanted to give support on this one thing, but I'm just saying, like, you guys have to talk to each other about what you think the actual intent of media should be, and less about this, like, what was the director's intention? Because I just don't care about the director's intention. I don't think you have to think, like, what is good art, and good art speaks to, like, the original source material, right? Like,
does it?
What was the intention of the original source material, and should it be carried over? And so stay on that. If you two stay on that, you're going to have a much better conversation.
Tina Chip, thanks for coming in and critiquing my show, but we do appreciate you. See you later, buddy. $5 for Mad Honeybee to say this. Wick, there's a scene of James Potter hanging Snape upside down under a tree. Bro, I don't think that should be a reason you don't cast a black person.
I agree. I saw that a lot on Twitter, and that was one of the most disgusting things I saw. And I will just say that.
Hold on. People are saying I didn't read the books. I read the books. I had the books. I own the books. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't read the books. I'm not getting anything wrong about the books. I am giving you... I may not be as versed in the lore as some. That's fair, right? But what have I said that has been incorrect in terms of lore? A lot of people are saying...
And I will say...
Toby-Wan Kenobi, I'm sorry, I'm yelling at my chat real quick. Toby-Wan Kenobi said, Wick, with as much as you read, how can you not have read the books? There's Jesse S. on the YouTube side saying, you just have to have read the books. I read the books, motherfuckers. What are you talking about?
Well, and kind of like Chips was saying, we should be discussing this outside of our subjective opinion, but based off of the source. I did create an introduction where then I do find a theorem that we can actually use to separate good adaptations from the source and bad adaptations, with examples listed.
Give us what you got.
Do you want me to jump to the beginning of, Hollywood, why they're going about, or do you just want me to jump straight to the theorem?
You give us the theorem, buddy.
Gotcha. Let me clear my throat real quick.
Yeah, take your time.
So this is created by Kierkegaard. He is a famous existentialist writer, especially when it comes to opposing Hegelian philosophy. He's very important when it comes to the detailing of the notions upon objective truth and subjective truth. Are you that or no?
Keep going.
I just wanted to give a little foray into the man.
Into Hegel?
No, Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard. Okay, however you pronounce his name. Okay, keep going.
Gotcha. Anyhow, in his writings repetition, he made a theorem that we can use to our advantage. The writing on repetition is utilizing an adapted story of Job and a pseudo-love story to signify the importance of repetition and what it means to the psyche. But I asked because it is better if we have this point of agreement prior to reading the quote upon the theorem. Do you agree that hope is a paradox?
Hope is a paradox. Explain, elaborate.
Well, something that when we think of in philosophy a paradox, it means something being true and false at the same time. where especially with hope, in my mind, it is somewhat paradoxical because you are forced into a superposition state where you're equally as excited and equally fretting its release, where your only two choices truly are to consume it or just to completely reject it.
I think we would define hope differently then. I don't think I view hope as something that I dread. Hope is something that I feel as a positive emotion. We hope that there is a thing that will happen, or we hope to avoid a thing. What we fear in that case, right? When we give in to fear, we have been said to have lost hope. So I don't think it is a paradox. I think it's a kind of a state which you either have hope, in which case it has overcome your fear. I have hope that we're going to avoid the situation, or I have lost hope and I think we're going to get fucked.
Is the realization that truly you have no control in the situation and you can just leave it to a higher power, forces beyond your control, be it so on and so forth. Because especially when we think of hope, it's usually when it's the last push. Especially if I think of like directly the last hope, Star Wars, or Luke Skywalker.
Sure. I don't.
If he didn't show up, the rebel was screwed.
I understand.
He was the final hope.
A forlorn hope. I get it. I'm curious where you're going with this. I'm trying to find out where you're leading me here. Okay, so I'm just gonna, for the sake of argument, say, okay, we'll define hope as you want, and we'll say it's paradox. What then? What does that mean for the story of Harry Potter?
So it connects directly with the theory, and with that agreement, I can read it now. Repetition and recollection are the same movement, only in opposite directions. For what is recollected is repeated backwards, whereas repetition properly so-called is recollected forward. Therefore, repetition, if it is possible, makes a man happy, whereas recollection makes him unhappy. In truth, the love of repetition is the only happy love. Like that of recollection, it has not the... Sorry.
No, it's okay. Look, it's okay. I choke on those words too. They're $5 words. You should probably use 10-cent words. Let's go. Keep going.
It's pollen. It's the area.
Fair enough.
But
I'm
going
to tell you right now, though, I just disagree with all these definitions. Recollection, obviously, you can have a fond recollection. I recollect fondly the time that I banged your mom, right? I recall that fondly, right? I'm going to repeat it, but I also recall it fondly. Both are positive emotions, and I think I don't know this idea of recollection as a negative. At least in that little spiel.
But usually, especially within the ideas, like you said, of banging my mother, and
yes,
good on you, she is a quite large woman. It's going to be difficult.
I'm a strong man.
But if that is something you have to recollect on, it means that you may not have the opportunity again. It's like a stretched out shirt. You very much enjoy it. It's something you fondly look upon in your mind. But if you try to wear it again, it's got holes. It's no longer comfortable. It's stretched out.
Bro, do you realize how long I've been wearing the same fucking hoodie on almost every episode for the last 3 years? And if you think I have negative feelings towards this hoodie, even though it is a little worn for wear, you're wrong.
Because then it's not recollected. That is you repeating the same motif. Yeah.
Because I recall it fondly, I continue to reward that recollection that I find fond with repetition of the recollected behavior. Do you have peanut allergies? I'm being asked by chat.
No, what is that?
A peanut allergy? Do you know what a peanut allergy is? When you're allergic to peanuts, you can't.
Oh, I know what a peanut allergy is. How does that correlate with what we're discussing?
They're making fun of you, I think. They're saying, "Oh, this guy has allergies." I would have never guessed, right?
It runs in my blood, like I got bad genes.
Okay.
But so regarding all of this, especially with what you were just describing, you're not having to recollect on anything. But if you did lose that jacket, would you not be remiss commonly thinking, showing up on your show and saying, damn, I don't have my jacket?
Yes, I would.
And you were wishing that you could repeat that same moment, correct?
Yes, I wish I could have had my jacket back.
And when you buy that new jacket off Amazon, you're hoping that it fits the exact same way, correct?
True. Because I
And
can
I will
also think of
say, it
situations.
does
Hold
look
on,
like a
the
jacket.
analogy is silly because I can think of a ton of situations where I can recall something and look at it fondly and not have it specifically with me and be okay that I don't have. Look, I'll give you an example. I was in the military. I have fond recollection of the military. Would I do it again? Fuck no. I would never go back and join the military again. That was crazy. But I recall my time there with fondness.
Okay, and as you were saying with other situations, a degree of indifference and is a stoic significance, so I give that to you. But equally so, as you're describing recollection and of the positive memories, which I'm not taking away, in no way can you fully describe it as a significant positive force within your life if you're not willing to rejoin.
I suppose. Where are we go again? Bring this to Harry Potter. Let's go.
I'm just trying to finish theorem.
Okay, the theorem. I just want to get to the Harry Potter stuff. I do have to know that we only have about 10, 15 minutes left. So,
Oh,
get
we
there.
do? Okay, then screw the theorem.
Yes,
Okay,
get there.
quick examples about good recreations, bad recreations. I'm gonna go through quick few. William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. They made a Leonardo DiCaprio recreation. It depicts the 1960s, South Beach, California. Really fucking good. Really fucking amazing. Tom Holland in the new Romeo and Juliet, though I haven't seen it, does have a race recasting, but even so, it changes the motifs of Romeo and Juliet, getting rid of the scene props and completely having issue with the actual pacing between between actors directly because of improper stage performance. Essentially, we can also look at something like the story of the Exodus Bible, where we have a recreation of that adapted source being DreamWorks, The Prince of Egypt. Wonderful
What is the
story.
through line on all
recreated.
these good? What do you think makes a good reimagining of a story, retelling of a story? I can give you an answer, but I'm curious what your answer is.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a good reimagining, retelling, etc.?
Extension or adaptation of the source that doesn't rob the core message.
Okay. I would say that.
So, would you say that the new Lilo and Stitch live action is a complete dejection of the point of Lilo and Stitch originally?
I cannot speak to that. I don't know. I've never seen it. I saw the original, but I've only seen clips or people complaining about the new one. I haven't actually seen the new one, so I'm loath to make any kind of comment on the new one on something I haven't even seen. Yeah. I think that you're directionally correct in saying that a good retelling keeps the core of the message and the story that is being told. I think that you can take Romeo and Juliet's a good example, and you can tell it in a multitude of settings with a multitude of time, technology, differences in race, differences in whether they're black, white, or not, Mexican, doesn't matter. You can still continue and have a good, solid Romeo and Juliet story as long as it keeps to the same, as long as it retains that same core principle of the story, which I would argue, in the case of Romeo and Juliet, is young, passionate love that is societally frowned upon, and yet they try to make work anyway, but because of the societal factors at play, leads to disaster. I probably, given more time, could make a better through line of Romeo and Juliet, but I would consider that to be that ingredient is crucial, core to a Romeo and Juliet story. Would you disagree?
No, I absolutely agree.
Okay, so with Harry Potter, I want to
Mhm.
transition this to Harry Potter.
Jump back to it, yeah?
Yes, I think that the core of excuse me, the story of Harry Potter is one of a child who does not know his. I'm gonna die. Entertain my audience while I get a drink real quick. Hold on, I gotta get a drink or I'm gonna die.
Gotcha. Hey y'all, I heard you were making fun of me. You know, I'm the peanut guy. I don't know why that's a thing. I don't know how to check it, but I guess I'm Mr. Peanut Head. I got a, one monocle over here. Real quick, what's going on? Um, I'm not the most entertaining. I'm not like Destiny. I'm not that funny of a guy. So it's a wonderful Wednesday. Happy hump day, my dudes. I hope you've had a good long day at work, making money, capitalist grind and whatnot. I'm proud of you. I know it's hard to struggle, especially in Trump's economy, but you're making it through. And
Okay,
if nobody else is saying it,
we're good.
you make me so happy.
I'm glad that you were able to entertain my audience. Thank you for the 5-month membership from Zephyrhash. Psst, Hermione isn't real. True. So as I was saying, I think the core of the story of Harry Potter is a young man who does not know his potential, who is unaware of his potential, who is mistreated, is given an opportunity to be whisked off to a magical land where he finds out he is the chosen one. And as the chosen one, he is thrust into a world where there is racism and class imbalance, but not along the traditional lines, but instead on the lines of purity of magic, and that the two forces or the various forces pull upon Mr. Potter, the chosen one, and try to influence his decisions, and he overcomes the the different like racial struggles, and he is able to fulfill his purpose. That's the core of the story. I could probably give you a better answer if I had more time, right? But that's the core. What would you see as the core?
The core of the story is a boy unknowingly chosen to fight what is the rising of totalitarian, forgive me,
Totalitarian?
thank you.
Huh.
Inherently, especially when it comes to the notions of suppressing those that aren't even of human morphology. Especially when we think of the motifs of Hagrid and Harry. And equally so, within that story, he only learns that due to the factors of his kings around him. He is just a lonely knight that need be go slay the enemy king. And it unfortunately equally tied with blood and race. And especially, I want to say, political endeavors, of course, with the changing of the
I don't see that as, and this is, I guess, our disagreement, is I don't see that part as the core of the story. I think that's a vehicle upon which they can tell the story, right? And it's a fine vehicle, but if they change that vehicle, it would still be Harry Potter, right? Instead of based on totalitarianism, it could be communism. He could be fighting communism. Well, I guess that's kind of totalitarianism in and of itself, right? But it doesn't have to be an Aryan totalitarianism. It could be any sort of totalitarianism, be that communism or otherwise, and the story beats would remain the same, and it would, at its core, still be Harry Potter.
Though especially when it comes to what is the direct animus for Harry to despise those who are pushing these pro-totalitarian ideals will be completely lost, forced by the necessity of our times.
I mean, his initial opposition to them is because they killed his parents.
No, his initial rejection of Draco Malfoy was especially due to his interactions with other wizards. Especially when he saw Draco looking at them as underneath.
I'd have to read the book again, but I'm pretty sure that his animus towards Slytherin was because they killed his parents. And Voldemort was
I
Slytherin.
didn't say Slytherin, I said Draco, I specified.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
And if anything, he only really chose Gryffindor, right? Because of
his dad
Hagrid
was.
and Dumbledore. And his father,
His
of
dad was
course.
Gryffindor, and his
His
parents
dad.
played a huge role in his what he thought about as right and wrong. That's why when his dad, he saw the memories of Snape, and his dad was being a real dick to Severus Snape, it caused him upset. It upset him because he had based his entire value system on the fact that dad was good, Voldemort and the rest were bad, and Slytherin was bad, Gryffindor good, and again,
How did
that's
Harry
what he
know
thought.
in the first book that Severus Snape was not working with Lord Voldemort and trying to hide the Philosopher's Stone?
He didn't know. He thought he was.
He did know because of the trial room for the potion. And how they learned of, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the man who had Voldemort in his hood, essentially,
Yeah.
had to get the
But they
passcode through him.
they expected, right? They suspected Severus Snape of causing his crash, his broom crash. Remember? Because
Mhm.
they saw Severus chanting, right? And they didn't realize he was chanting to save and protect. They thought he was chanting to cause the curse to mess with his broom. So throughout most of the
Yes,
story,
there was
they
always
suspected
spite
Severus.
between the two because Harry thought Snape despised him due to the his father's and Snape's interaction. Yes, that is a secondary idea of why he never liked Snape. And I do agree with you when it comes to him learning of how his dad treated him. It did give him a double take.
Fair enough. Okay. I hate to cut this short, but we are out of time. Give us your closing thoughts, and I'll let you go, buddy.
Okay, closing thoughts. I hope that they continue to make this film, especially based off the books. My biggest upset was that they never had the for Nearly Headless Nick. That was the best portion of the Chamber of Secrets. Equally so, I do hope they actually introduce portions of Yuga-Do the School, because it is one of the most interesting extensions of Hogwarts legacy, and especially the overall lore. I think if they eliminate that entirely, it will be horrible misaddition to the show. Not just because it could be semi-racist or whatever, but it's an actual failure of the that Fantastic Beast was a failure. There was plenty of stuff I wanted, but Fantastic Beast was a failure, and I'm hoping that this, because all the actual customers want is an expansion of the universe.
Okay.
We want 40K, but Harry Potter.
Well, thank you for being here. I do appreciate you, and hopefully we'll have you back sometime. $5 for Mori Memento to say Pay It Forward is a book with detailed racial issues, but when made into a movie, they took away all of these by making them white. Great short book. I actually never saw the book, or I never saw the book. I never read the book. I have seen the movie, but I've never read the book, so I can't speak to that. Gang, what do we got coming up? So, what is coming up tomorrow? 6 p.m. Eastern, gang. We're going to have on Lonerbox, Tollybots, Prime Kai, and Doobie at 6 p.m. Eastern to discuss and debate. Is there a genocide in Gaza? Is Israel? Should we be funding Israel still? Who's in the wrong? Who's in the right? What's going on? All these questions and more tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. Tune in. Friday, we're gonna have Diane Yap on, and me and Tollybots, who are co-hosting the show, are gonna talk to. Where'd you go, buddy? Whatever. I guess he was bored. But yeah, okay. Tune in, 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Or are we done? I think we're done. Who are we rating into? Who's live? Irrelevant's live. Raid Intel Irrelevant. Tell him that this is a hate raid. I love you guys. I'm bad at Harry Potter. Why? What did I say that was wrong about Harry Potter? I don't know. I thought I got all the facts correct. But Tell Irrelevant that he has been casted as a new Harry Potter. I'll talk to you later.